Hello guys, today I will be working on this door that is locked. When we interact with it, we see that it is locked. We can pick up this key and now we can unlock it just like that. And here we also have the ability to make multiple copies of a key. So right now we have 3. We can add another key here. Take the eyedropper, select the 3rd key. So now we need all 3 keys to unlock this door. So we go up here, locked, pick up 1 key, still locked. Let's just pick up these 2 keys now, and we can see that it unlocks. We also have another variable here called 1 key. So if we have that ticked, we don't need all 3 of these keys to unlock this door. We can choose any of these keys and it should unlock the door. So let's select this other key now. And we can see that no matter which key you choose, this door will unlock itself. If you don't have a door set up, I'll leave a link to my previous tutorial on how you can make one. But yeah, let's begin. So in the previous part, we made this door that you can interact with. And now we will make a key for it that can unlock it when it is locked. So first, let's get to the interact folder, doors, and in here, let's create a new folder. Let's call it keys, and let's get a key model now. So we will use this 3D model that I found on Sketchfab. I'll leave a link in the description, and you want to just go ahead and download this 3D model by clicking here. And we want the FBX. Just download that and save it to your computer. So after you download that file, you should extract a folder. It should be called door key, and inside you get the source and the textures. Let's jump into source and let's just drag this key into the key folder. So here, just leave everything at default for now and just import all, and we get a material with it. So let's head back to that folder. So inside the textures folder, we get these 4 images and just drag it into Unreal, and should just import like this. So let's set up the material now, but first let's rename this material. Let's name it to M for material and just call it key. And let's double click this material. And in here, we need to drag these inside. So highlight them, go into M key and just drop them in here like this. So just organize them a little bit. And let's find our base color map here. We can remove this for now. And let's just plug the RGB to the base color. Let's get the metallic map now. And we can just use the R channel, plug that into roughness. Let's get the normal map. Let's take the RGB from here and plug it into normal. And finally the metallic one, which is actually here. So let's take the R channel, plug that into the metallic map. So actually I noticed a mistake when I was editing this video. Make sure these 2 maps are in the correct positions. Actually, this one is the metallic map. Instead, I had it in roughness. And let's take the roughness and plug it into the correct slot now. So just a small mistake, but for the rest of the video, my key will be slightly different from what you may have. And let's just press apply. Let's just wait for this to disappear. When that's done, let's apply the material now to the key. Actually, first, let's drag the static mesh inside. And it should already be applied. If not, double click on the key mesh here and we get this window. Then scroll up to the top here. You can apply the material if it isn't applied. So just search M key and just select the material that we just created. Also, when you drag in this key, it's fairly large like that. So instead of scaling it for each instance, head back to this. And we can scroll down here in the details panel, go to the build settings under the LOD here. And we will change the build scale to, let's try 0.25 and make sure we do that on all axes. Let's just save that. Oh, actually press the apply changes here. And you can see that the key is much smaller now. And let's reset the scale of this key first. And so right now it's fairly large, but you guys can mess around with the build scale. I'll just leave it at this size for now, make it easily seen for the tutorial. So we can actually make the key actor now. But first, let's actually make another folder. Let's call it key A. So this is if you have multiple keys meshes that you'd like to use. So let's highlight everything and let's drag this into key A folder. And now we can head back to the interact folder. And in here, we can make another child blueprint of this base item. So right click, create child blueprint. Let's just call it BP key. And let's take that and drag that into our key folder here. So let's drag this BP key into the viewport here. And let's double click on BP key. And let's change the base mesh to that key mesh that we have. Go to the materials and reset the material. So it uses the material key here. Let's set the item information. So in ST item, let's set the interact type to, let's set it to pickup. And let's set the item name to key. So this is the static mesh. We can delete that. And this is our new BP key. So when we press play, now we can walk up to this key and get the correct name plus the correct icon image for the interact dot as well. Okay, so back in BP key, let's head to the interface tab and we have this interact interface here. Let's double click that. And so what happens when we click on this key? Well, usually in other games, they add it to an inventory, but since we don't have that set up, we can say, for example, just destroy it like this. So when we press play and interact, it just disappears. But actually, we don't want to destroy this actor because in the future, if we had other types of items that we wanted to drop from the inventory, we'd have to recreate the actor again. Instead, what we could do is we can just hide it, something like this. And then we drop it, we just make it appear again at the new location. So this saves destroying and creating new actors. So let's get rid of our destroy actor here. And instead, let's drag off and set actor hidden in game. And let's tick that. So when we interact with it, it will disappear. The interact dot is still visible. And when we walk through, we are stopped by an invisible key now. That's because we need to get rid of the collision as well. So set collision enabled, set actor enable collision, and let's leave that unticked. Let's test that out. So interact with it and it disappears and we can walk through this space now. Now we can start creating the link between the door and the key. So head into the BP door and in the variables, let's create a new variable. Let's call it keys. And let's select the BP key object reference here. And let's turn on instance editable, expose on spawn. And in the variable type, let's change it to array. So we can have multiple keys to a single door here. Now when we select the door, we get these keys here with the array element. We can add an element and let's select the eyedropper and let's pick our BP key. So back in BP door, let's head to the construction script. And here on the switch E door states, I noticed one mistake. So when it is closed, we are not setting the closing angle of the door. So when we set it to closed here, but the closing angle is say 50, it still stays at 0. So what we want to do in the closed, we want to copy these nodes here. So we can set the closing angle and let's drag the close angle from our variables. Let's plug that into the flip values here. And let's just connect this into here. So now even when we have the close state here, we can also change the close angle. So back in the construction script, we can start setting the locked position. So let's take this node and the set relative rotation, copy paste that below, connect that to the locked. And usually we want it to be closed when in the lock position, and we can leave the Z rotation at 0. We can also take the closing angle and let's set that to 0 as well. And let's just test that out. So when it is in the open position with a close angle of 20, let's switch it to locked now. You can see the close angle resets to 0 and we are unable to change the close angle. And right now, even with the locked position, we can press play and still open the door. So let's just first prevent that from happening. So let's create a new variable, call it isLocked, and make sure you change the variable type to a boolean and set that to single. Drag this new variable into here and we'll set isLocked. Let's set it to true. And back in the event graph, in the event interact event here, let's get our isLocked variable and a branch node. Connect that to the condition. So if it is true and it is locked, let's not do anything. But if it is not locked, we will go ahead and activate the door. So with the locked position, we should expect it to not do anything. And yep, I'm pressing E and it is not opening. And one thing we can do to give us a audio clue that it is locked, we can simply just play a sound for now. Let's just use the compile failed here. And we can also set the ST item. So drag ST item here. And we need the set member in ST item. So connect that after the play sound. When you select this node in the default category, expand this and we want to change the item name. So select that. And let's change the item name to locked. And then we need to grab the ST item and set it. And from this structure out here, let's connect that to the set ST item. So a quick note, while I was editing the video, I noticed we actually don't need to set the ST item again because it is already setting it here. So you can just delete that or not use it. And so now when we go up, we should hear that noise and the name will also change to locked. Just like that. Okay, so now that we have a locked door, let's try to get this key to unlock it. So head back to BP key. Let's create a new variable, call it hasKey of type boolean. And let's set that here after the event interact. And let's tick that. Now head back to BP door. And just after the isLocked branch in the true, let's check the keys that we have. Grab this array and for each loop here, so for each of the elements in this array, we will look through and we will get as key and we'll drop a branch node here. And here we want to increment a number, which will be the amount of keys that we have, and we want to compare it with the amount of keys in this array here. And if that is equal the same, we can say that the door is able to be unlocked. So let's go ahead and make a function for this. So highlight these nodes that we just created, right click and collapse to function, and we'll call it check keys. And let's double click this new function. And in here, we want to create a local variable. So this variable will only be used within this function. Call it keys selected, and that will be of type integer. And each time we call this function, we want to reset this keys collected. So drag off and set it to 0. Connect that to the for loop here. And so each time we check the keys in this array, we will increment this number here. So we can get this variable. We can just increment it. Connect that from the true. And don't forget to set this local variable. So drag off set keys collected and connect these together. So after this for loop is done checking the keys in our array, when completed, we can compare the length, so the amount in this array, to the amount of keys that we have collected. So drag keys collected variable. Let's connect them with a equals. And from the completed, let's drop a branch node and connect that and connect the condition here. So if the amount of keys we've collected is equal to the amount we have in this array, we will get true and we can go ahead and unlock the door. But if we don't have all the keys, we can return false and keep the door locked. So we can also give the option, for example, there are 2 available keys, but you only need 1 to unlock it. You can come from the false branch and bring it back to true and unlock it. So what we need is a new variable of type Boolean. Let's just call it 1key and make sure it is instance editable, expose and spawn. And let's leave the default value as true. And let's get our new variable here and drop a branch node. Connect these 2 together and that into the condition. So if we only need 1 key, we can go to true and unlock. And if it's false, meaning we need all keys, we will come here and leave the door locked. And so we can add our return nodes now. So tab, search for the return node, connect this true and this true together. And let's select the return node, and in the outputs, let's add a new output and let's just call it unlock type Boolean, and let's leave that ticked. Let's copy paste it below here and let's connect this false branch, but we will untick the unlock. And we need to actually check one more thing, because if this variable is true, no matter how many keys we have, it will always return true and unlock the door. We need to take this keys collected. Let's just copy paste it here. And so this value has to be greater than 0. So we will connect these 2 with a n boolean. And let's just connect this to the condition. And so yeah, we just have to make sure we have at least 1 key selected and that this variable is also true. So back in the BP door event graph, we can take our new function, and here in the event interact, let's make some space and let's connect this to the true of the isLocked branch. And from here, we will add another branch node. And so if this, after it's done checking the keys, we can connect this to the branch. So if unlock is true, we can go ahead and activate the door event. But if it is false, we can go ahead and continue playing our false sound, and we can set the name back to locked. Okay, let's press play now and test this out. Let's walk to the door. We can see that it is locked. Let's pick up this key and walk back to the door, and it should unlock. Yep. Currently, we need to fix the item name because it always says locked. But before we do that, we can test this 1 key variable here. So let's duplicate this key. So Alt drag it, make a second copy. And in the BP door, let's add a new array element and select our new key here. And let's untick 1 key. So we need 2 keys now to unlock this door. You can see it's locked still. Pick up the first key. Still locked. So we get the second key. Now it unlocks. Cool, so let's just fix a few more things. So we want to change the item name correctly. So each time we unlock it, it should say something like unlock. And each time we open and close a door, we can also make it say close and open. So we will be repeating these 2 nodes. So what we can do is highlight them and collapse them to a macro. And we can call it update item name. Let's jump inside this macro. And from the set members item name, drag it to the inputs here. And we can also connect the outputs in case we need to do something after the macro. Jump back to the event graph, and here, after we check the keys and it is locked, we can write the same name again. So it is locked. And we can copy paste this macro and put it up here. So when we unlock the door, we can disconnect this node for now. We can make it say unlocked. And from here, we actually also need to drag this variable, the isLocked variable, set it to false here. And so the next time we interact with the door, instead of going up here and checking if we have keys, we just operate the door as normal. So now that we've disconnected this node here, the door does something a bit different now. So we can test that out. Let's just delete this other key and make sure we remove the array element here. And so we only need one key for now. So let's pick up this key and unlock the door. And as you can see, it says unlocked, but the door doesn't open. So the user has to press the interact button again to open the door. So for me, I don't want the user to interact with it twice after they have unlocked the door. Instead, I want to automatically open the door afterwards. So from the unlocked here, we can just connect the door event again. But before that, I actually want to play an unlocking sound. So we can press tab and search for sound. Play sound. Let's choose add location, like that's here. For the location, we can drag off and get the actor location. That will be the location of the door. Head over to freesound.org. I'll leave a link to this in the description. And we have this unlocking sound here. And just go ahead and download this sound. And back in Unreal, let's go to the content folder, right click, and let's make a new folder. Let's just call it SFX. And then inside this one, we can have the sound for the doors now. So take that file you downloaded and just drag it into here. And back in BP door, let's just put that sound here, just like that. And before we open the door, let's give it time for the sound to finish. So drop a delay node, and the sound is about 1 second long. So for the duration, put 1, and from completed to the door event. And let's test this out. Let's pick up the key. We should hear the unlock noise, and it opens the door. But it also keeps saying unlock now, so we will fix this. So where do we want to change the name? Well, we can change it down here. So after the door opens and closes, we can make it say close door when it is open, and vice versa. So when it is open, we can say close door. So let's go inside this macro, the finish open close. And from the then one, where we set the position of this door using this variable is closed, we can make some space here. And here we can take our update item name macro, and we can drop a select node here. And let's connect the isClosed variable to the index. And from the select, let's take the return value and put that to the item name. And let's connect the execution pin here. So when the door is closed and it is true, we want to say open door. And when it is open, meaning false, we will say close door. So let's test this out. Grab the key, door, unlocked. When it hits this position, it says close door. And when it is closed, it switches to open door. And right now we have one problem. So when we set the door state to open and we walk up to this door, it says door, but we don't know if the player, after they interact with it, whether or not the door will open or close. Right now it is opening, so we will fix that. So in BP door, in the construction script, when we set it to open, we will check the restricted angle here. And so let's grab our macro. Let's copy paste this. And let's actually just bring this in between here. So from true. So if the restrict angle is true, you want to close the door. We'll write close door. From the false, we want to open the door. And we also want to set the door name when it is closed and locked. So we can copy paste this macro up here. And we just wanted to say door when it is closed. And take that one and put it down here as well. So when it is locked, it will be a mystery to the player whether or not we can open or close the door. So while the door state is set to closed, it will just say door, but we can open the door and close it because it is unlocked. But when we set it to locked, it will also say door. But when we interact with it, we get the name changed to the locked. And that also fixes this problem where we have it set to open. So with the restrict angle off, we can open the door, close it. And with the restrict angle on, meaning that the door should only be able to close, it reads correctly and says close door. Just like that. And one more thing I want to add is just this sound pickup for the key. So this is from Freesound again. Just download this sound. I'll leave a link for this in the description. Drag that sound we downloaded into the SFX doors folder. And let's go back to our BP key. And when we interact with this actor, let's just play that sound. Play sound 2D. And let's look for that pickup noise. This one. So I also want to change the audio when we interact with the door and find out it is locked. So we will use this audio as well. And there will be another link for this in the description. So download this sound. Back in Unreal, let's drag that new sound into the SFX doors folder. So in BP door, where we find out the door is locked after we've checked the keys, we play this compiled failed. Instead, we can delete that and let's connect this here. Instead, let's take this play sound at location with the get actor location. Copy paste that below. And then let's look for our new sound, the doorknob wiggle. And since the audio is a bit too long, we can expand this node and set the start time to 1. So it will cut off the first second. And let's test this out now. So with the door set to locked, we can walk up, press E. Now we get that locked noise. Each time we try to interact with the locked door, we can pick up this key, get that nice sound as well, and get this new unlocked sound. Just like so. And one thing I forgot to put in the play sound location, we need a attenuation setting. So we've created one in the previous tutorial, SA default. Go ahead and put that in both of these nodes. So we need that attenuation so we get the right location where the audio is playing. And if you don't have a sound attenuation, we can go to the SFX doors folder here, right click and search for the sound attenuation. Let's call it a door, for example. Double click this. And inside here, we can set the inner radius and the fall off distance. For example, we have 800 for the fall off distance. Let's leave the inner radius to 400. And you can test this out by dragging a audio file. Let's get our locked sound here. And in the right side details panel, search for the attenuation settings and use the SA door. And as you can see here, we get 2 radius. So the inner radius is where we can, when the player's in the inner radius, we can hear this sound. And as we walk further, the sound will fade. And once we exit this outer radius, the sound will completely stop. So to finish things off, back in BP door, we can do a bit of cleaning here. Disconnect this for now, and we will add a custom event. Let's just call it locked door event. And let's connect that here. So let's take the new nodes we've created here, highlight them, and let's bring them down here. Press the C on the keyboard to bring up this border around them. And let's just call it locked door. Let's also give it a nice color here. Take the event interact from true. Let's call that event. Just like this. And let's also give this a nice border. Press C on the keyboard and let's call it event interact. Let's also give this a nice color. And yeah, that looks just a little bit neater. And yeah, I think I will leave this here for now. So we have this nice sound. When we find out the door is locked, we can also pick up the key and unlock the door. Just like that. So if you want to go ahead, you can also add some noises when the door is latching, when it closes. I'm sure you can try to figure that out. If not, I will work on that maybe in the future tutorials. But yeah, thank you for watching. Bye.